Hello and welcome to episode 111 of Dots, Lines, and Destinations. It is June 9th, 2016. I got the date right this time. And today I am joined by Foz Mahmood and Seth Miller. Hey guys.
Hey there.
I'm Steven Seagraves, by the way. So there.
Really?
I actually remembered to say it this time.
Mystery Man.
Yeah. So for Dots today, we've got Polaris, United's new international business class. We have Lines, we have Venezuela, and Lufthansa, kind of a little bit of I would say a breaking up. And the destination is Bermuda. And then we have a bunch of news. So first thing, the business class, the new United Polaris North Star International Business Class was announced last week, I think it was June 2nd.
Yes. June 2nd.
And some interesting things. New seat, of course, was the big thing, but also a change in service and a change in the lounge setup. And anything else? What else am I missing? I think that's about it. I mean, kind of there's some subtle undertones of Global First is eventually going away, which we all kind of know. But yeah, what did you guys think?
Say.
What did you guys think of the announcement? It was kind of like they made a big deal out of it in New York.
Yeah, it was a big old party here. I'm disappointed I wasn't able to be there.
You were having fun though.
Yeah, I would have been in Dublin at that point, so definitely not suffering too much. I guess by the time that rolled around, I was drinking at the Guinness Storehouse at the big gala evening event. So.
Oh, you poor guy.
Yeah, fresh beer from where it was meant to be. I like the new seat well enough from what I've seen so far. I think it is, it's certainly not leading the pack, but it's competitive in terms of space, direct aisle access, which people seem to love. Still the ability to sit next to someone if you want to and talk to them in that sort of middle pair.
Yep.
I'm a little sad that there's not a good pair on the outside because I like the windows and I like my wife. But other than that, I think it's a competitive product that will play well in the space from a seat perspective.
And because they kind of United emphasized sleep is the most important thing. And we've talked about that before on the shows that really on long haul business class, we really care about sleeping. And so the idea was to make the seat about that. And yeah, I mean, it's
pajamas on 12-hour flights.
Yep. For flights over 12 hours, pajamas. And they're going to kind of revamp the amenities, the bedding amenities. So I think that's going to be done by Saks Fifth Avenue, branded duvet and a cooling pillow, memory foam. So all around, I mean, do you think this is playing catch up with Delta, or?
I think it's not so much catch up. I think it's leapfrogging, right? Because Delta was so far behind in having lie flats, and then they did lie flats, but then they did direct aisle access. I mean, Delta hasn't really done anything as far as premium lounges, which is, and they have a problem with Sky Club space as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Delta did their brief trial run, at least at JFK, of free food where there was food available. But then apparently, and I didn't know this until someone else pointed out to me, but a couple months ago, Delta killed the food offerings in that Sky Club. So obviously, they thought it didn't work for them so well.
And that's part of the announcement, right, is that the Polaris lounges will have a sit-down restaurant-style pre-flight dining and as well as a buffet.
Is it sit-down and buffet or just buffet?
I saw sit-down, restaurant-style dining in the announcement.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just their staff around, plus you get the buffet. I don't know. I could see that, you get tables as opposed to you have to go sort of balance a plate somewhere in a lounge.
That could be it.
High tables versus the low, whatever. But, that's right. That's a replacement for the Global First lounges. And it will include only premium cabin passengers, not Star Gold or other lounge access means.
Which helps with the crowding, which we've seen at Newark, especially. But
does it? I mean, I know they're trying to dig in some space on the back side of that lounge. I think they're taking out space from one of the restaurants, but I just wonder, is it enough?
Yeah. I mean, they have a whole bank of probably 30 flights that go out within a few hours of each other.
Yeah, it's a lot of premium passengers.
Yeah, if not more than 30, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Some are connecting and this and that. I mean, depends on how many hours you want the window to be each night. But yeah, it's got to be better than what it is today.
Yeah.
So that's certainly an upgrade. Obviously for Newark and Houston, which are getting this new Polaris lounge, huge upgrade.
Yep.
Chicago, San Francisco are losing the GFL in favor of, and Dulles will lose the GFL in favor of this Polaris lounge. So I suppose if you're a Global First passenger, you might see this as a slight downgrade because there'll be other people in the lounge with you. But
you won't be alone.
Should be better, I guess.
What are they going to do at LAX? Do you know?
So they're rebuilding that lounge. That was always, it's on the map with the little star on it is saying it's going to be a Polaris lounge. I imagine it'll be, room within a room kind of thing where there's space for the Polaris dining room somewhere in that space. Or after they finish rebuilding the lounge, they take what was the GFL, that like weird upstairs room halfway down the pier, and turn it back into Polaris. Right now, it's like a weird overflow lounge that apparently people stand in line to get into, which I get that you have access to a lounge, but seriously, standing in line to get in as opposed to just going and sitting at a gate and plugging in your computer at one of the many power outlets and using the Wi-Fi. Anyway, sorry.
But then you have to hang out with the plebeians. That's not acceptable.
And not get your free shitty alcohol?
Exactly, in my little granola ball.
Yeah.
Well, and so for Polaris, I wonder if the lounge will have better, drinks. Because I know that United Club is just like Miller Lite and Heineken for free, and low.
I would assume so.
Yeah. Which is nice.
Yeah, and I think in some ways that's matching what American is doing with its dining for premium cabin passengers that was recently announced. That's also sort of slowly rolling out. So it's one of those there's nothing new in this world kind of situations. Everybody's sort of playing leapfrog and catching up and jumping here and jumping there, and a little better this, a little better that, a little worse there, whatever. So a lot of this is lots of similarities, I would say, but each with just enough distinction or their own twist on it to make it, unique to the airline offering it.
Yeah. And this is going to come first on the 777, the 77Ws, right?
Right, the 300 ERs that are coming end of this year.
Yeah. And then
we heard Newark and maybe San Francisco based now.
Did they say San Francisco was going to be?
I know it was Newark has always been what was talked about, but I thought there was another city added on at some point. Maybe not. I might be making that up.
I mean, there was the question of what are they going to do with the 744s being retired?
Yeah, but I guess they've got enough time to figure that out. I don't know.
Yeah.
So the question that I have is the first lounge is in Chicago, but the 77Ws aren't going to Chicago. So how does this make sense?
It doesn't line up with their rollout. I think they just want to get the soft product rolled out there. So
they were redoing that lounge anyway. So
yeah, and I think they can just offer it as, oh, you're flying business class out of Chicago, come to the Polaris lounge, because that's and maybe hype it up that way. I mean, are
they going to call all business first seats Polaris come some random day, put a line in the sand and say when the first plane is delivered, it's all Polaris now? I don't know.
Well, and they said that the Global First will, as it's still around, they'll call it Polaris Global First or something.
Yeah, it's important to make sure you get the branding right.
Yeah, I think the name is something that we've talked about a little bit online, as we chat. I don't really care. Like, I don't like it, but I don't really care because it doesn't affect me. The name doesn't make my life better or worse. But I think it's a stupid name.
Well, I think the name is almost as important as the livery.
Yeah. But at the same, Delta One.
Wait, you're going to give me some credit for that? I was making fun of you.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, I don't like the name. I mean, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't change whether or not I'm going to fly it. Just, I don't find it all that interesting, and I don't buy the whole backstory about the North Star and all that. I think they had to come up with something. And someone wrote an ATV one weekend and was like, "This is a great name."
Yeah, that's the part that's entertaining me. Is like, is it the ATV? Is it the watercraft? Is it the snowcraft? Which one were they thinking about when they put that together?
So yeah, I mean, I'm more excited about the seat. I think it'll be a great replacement for the 242 setup that is currently on the 777s. So I think it's nice. I'm with you though, Seth. I wish they had a 2-seater section on one of the window sides.
Yeah,
that's the least favorable part of it. So yeah, Foz, what do you think? I mean, you excited about the changes or not so much?
I am. But unfortunately, I'd love to be all hyped up, but we're going to see a couple planes this year at best. We're years away from completion, so we still have the old product to deal with for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. And I think this comes back to my initial issues, which are, there were some changes announced, 2 years ago about dining and things on the long-haul flights, and nothing's come of that. Like, the dining has stayed the same. I mean, the meals are still kind of just meh, and the menu hasn't even changed really. So I'm hopeful that actually happens. Like, this comes through along with the service, a better service mentality. I just don't want to hold my breath and wait for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's promising, and I think it'll be better. It'll probably end up being one of the best products of the 3 majors at the end of it. But we have a few years before it's complete.
Yeah, and really before we can judge what it's gonna be like. So
right.
Next up are the lines, and Lufthansa and Venezuela, because of the currency issues and the inability to get money out of Venezuela, Lufthansa saying they're cutting their flying to Caracas, which isn't they're not the first carrier to do so. United's kind of slowed down how much they're flying into the country. I think Americans halted almost everything in and out of Venezuela. now it's reaching further and further distances. So who's going to be next, I guess, is the question.
There's something like $3.8 billion locked up in Venezuela right now. Oh, that's been sort of held for at least 16 months, according to IATA.
Wow.
I'll double check, but that's one of the stats I think they came up with at the conference last week, their annual general meeting, whatever. What's interesting to me also is there were 4 other countries in Africa, which I'm definitely not going to remember off the top of my head, which were also starting to become a problem with combined over $1 billion being held.
Well, I know that Nigeria is one of them because that was stated as one of the reasons the United flight was pulled.
Angola is one as well, I'm sure. It's bad.
Yeah. And this is it the government holding the funds in Africa, similar to what's going on in Venezuela where the banks aren't allowing the funds to leave the country? Or?
Yeah, I got it here. Nigeria has $591 million. Sudan has 360, Egypt 291, and Angola 237 million, and 3.78 billion in Venezuela. It's horrible for the airlines. Obviously, I mean, it's one of those like we went out, we did our business, we showed up, we still served your country and whatever, and basically the governments are holding the cash hostage.
Yeah,
it's in local currency, and they won't let the airlines convert it to whatever their local currency is and take it out.
And so Lufthansa's basically said, well, we can't afford to do business here anymore.
Right.
And so we'll just stop flying.
Yeah, we're cutting that route. They suspended the route.
Yep. It's not good for anyone, really. I mean, it's not good for the local Venezuelans, and
well, at this point, there's very little going on there. I would say.
Yeah, that's good. And this just is like, well, who's going to be next? I mean, KLM maybe because they fly a Caracas flight. I think Air France has a Caracas flight. Can't think of who else, but I can't see them keeping their flights around if their money's being held up as well.
Yeah, so. At some point, everybody's got to decide. We're not getting, Venezuela's made overtures of like, oh, we'll let you have some of it, and they're giving off, pennies on the dollar valuations.
Yeah.
To release some of the funds, and it's a mess.
Yep. So not good news, but it's news. And the last thing is the destination this week is Bermuda, and I know Foz just got back today. We're recording this on Monday from Bermuda, and Seth, you've been to Bermuda, so
a couple times.
I'll let you guys chat.
It's one of the few countries I've almost been denied entry.
Why am I not surprised?
There's only been like 3 of them, I think. Maybe a 4th somewhere.
Now, why were you almost denied entry?
Well, I was there for work / vacation / just visiting a friend. This was a few years back. I wonder if now I never get in again. Was visiting actually a guy who was my friend, but who I was also doing some work for. And the plan was show up. He'd pick me up at the airport, or I think even that time I was just taking a taxi from the airport into Hamilton to go to the office. And then he was going to arrange everything, and I was staying for one day and then going home. We were migrating servers from one data center in Bermuda to a data center near Boston, and my job was to show up with a stack, collect the stack of hard drives, put them in a bag, and fly them back to Boston and plug them in Boston, essentially. And I showed up to the counter, and the guy says, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm just visiting a friend." "Where are you staying?" "I don't know. He's taking care of that for me." "How long are you here for?" "Just a day." "Is he coming to pick you up?" "Nah, I'm going to take a cab." Like, we got into it, and I mean, to be fair, I was telling the truth, which may have been a mistake, but it sounded sketchy.
Yeah.
And so, didn't want to get into the part where I was there for work because it's a different visa and they generally are strict about that sort of thing. But basically, I get sent to secondary, and at this point, I'm on my BlackBerry, which I'd say says it was a long time ago, but also, as you guys know, I had a BlackBerry until like 2 years ago, so maybe not. But like frantically texting my contact in the States to make sure the guy in Bermuda would answer his phone when immigration called, because he had a habit of not answering his phone. Handed him a business card. The guy was looking at my website about the travel stuff. Yeah, I always go places for just a day or two. Here, look at my website. Like it was, and so I was in secondary talking to an agent. The other person in secondary was a woman who's I would have guessed was being paid to visit someone. And yeah, we didn't bond, but we didn't really talk much. But they were going through her bags pretty well. I didn't have bags to go through, so they were a little disappointed in that. But so yeah, that's my Bermuda.
And they let you go.
Eventually the guy got in touch. It's like, played the I'm right on my way. I'm on my way. I'm just running late. I'll be at the airport in just a few minutes. Let him through. I'm going to pick him up right now. They finally released me. He called me and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not picking you up. I'm nowhere near there. Take a taxi. Let's go." So I had that going for me. Yeah, it was great. But that was one where I actually did get sent to secondary and was going through the process of trying to negotiate my way out. That was the second time I went. The first time was a similar situation, a similar work trip for a couple days like that over a weekend. And I was like, yeah, just visiting some friends for the weekend, this and that. And the guy like, looks at me and is like, you got nothing to declare? I'm like, no. He's like, you didn't even bring duty free for your friends? To which my response was, I'm not that good a friend, sorry, and like walked away. But yeah, they don't let me there very much.
And how was your trip, Foz?
It was great. It was expensive, but it was great.
Is Bermuda expensive?
Yes, very.
Wow.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought. I mean, having been to a number of Caribbean islands and stuff, it is definitely the most expensive. You can't rent a car there, which I didn't know until a few days before I left.
Yeah, the only cars are for residents. You can rent scooters, though. Did you guys get scooters?
No, we were going to, and then we just opted not to. We mostly stay at the resort, and we had some activities booked. So, but the resort was good. It was the Fairmont Southampton. Definitely a little dated, but they have a really cool private beach. Everything there was expensive. 2 drinks and 2 burgers ended up being like $100 for lunch.
Wow.
That's high. That's high even for Bermuda, I think, but only by like 20% or so.
Yeah, I mean it was clearly resort food. Like I walked into the coffee shop and coffee was like $7. A bag of chips was $10. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But once you get ventured off the resort, there was a convenience store probably about half a mile away. Those prices were a little more in line with normal stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my experience was dining in town. There were some places that were reasonable and some that weren't. But even like at the grocery, things were 50% more than I'm used to paying in New York in a lot of cases, which, we're both on islands, but their island is a little further away.
Yeah. I mean, is there a lot to do? It seems like maybe some diving or, just beach going, but is there anything else to do other than that?
I mean, the water's some of the most beautiful water I've ever seen.
Huh.
Yeah, super clear.
Yeah.
Very
amazing.
pretty water. The beaches are nice. I'm still not convinced that any of the sand is pink. I went to some of the beaches when I was there. I did have a scooter that first trip, and probably the second one too. But definitely on the first trip, I had a scooter for the couple days I was there to get back and forth from the office to the guest house I was staying in. And one of the days, I had like a spare day at the end of the trip, 6 hours, and I did my own self-guided tour of the island, and basically took a ferry out to the far point where the cruise harbor is, and then on the scooter worked my way all the way back into Hamilton around the sort of curl that is the island. Passed by the Hamilton, not the Hamilton, I'm sorry, the Fairmont where Foz was staying, barred their beach for a half hour, barred several other beaches along the way, and I swear none of the sand looked pink to me. That's my only complaint.
Apparently it's not all the sand, it's just in certain spots, and it apparently has something to do with there's some local creature that has a pink shell, and when they pass, the shell feeds into the sand, and that's how the sand looks pink.
I believe and understand all that. I swear I went to the beaches that they told me were supposed to be pink, and I guess I'm colorblind. Small things, but otherwise, generally an asshole. I don't know. But yeah, I like Bermuda. I think it's an interesting place to visit. It is very expensive. There are very few hotels other than the 2 Fairmonts. There's a lot of guest houses, so you've got to be ready to deal with that. And to ride a scooter and always wear your helmet, they get very, very finicky about that sort of thing. The fine for not wearing the helmet if you're on a scooter is significant. But it's a cute little island and, British colony, still sort of British situation going on.
And only a 2-hour
semi-British, I guess.
From New York, 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah, it was a little under 2 hours there and 2:06 on the way back.
Wow. It's a little further south. It's off of like the Carolinas, I think. But
yeah, interesting.
I enjoyed the couple times. Obviously, I was working for a lot of it, so I didn't have a ton of time to sort of get out and explore. But even that day where I sort of got on the scooter and went around and saw what I could see and whatnot was very nice. I enjoyed it, but it is crazy expensive.
I'll have to go sometime. I'm interested just because I like there's a lot of history there with British, so.
And from the West Coast, you can somewhat often find good first-class fares.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those.
And good is a relative term, but pretty good first-class fares.
Yeah, and I think even the Caribbean, Northern Caribbean, you can find sometimes, but Bermuda's more interesting to me than the Northern Caribbean. So, yeah. Seth, you posted some news today. T-Mobile is giving out 1 free hour of GoGo on flights now as part of their promotion. They had texting, right? If you were on a GoGo flight, you could text.
They had texting, right? And so you could log on and click I'm on a T-Mobile device, and it would just open up texting for you. And now apparently that same button will give you an hour of free connectivity
on every flight.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge deal. I would say. I mean, financially, I have to imagine there's a significant windfall for GoGo, which is good news for them. They haven't had the best of news lately in terms of winning or keeping customers, specifically American. But it's huge. The challenge for them is going to be delivering on it with their limited capacity until things open up with more satellite-based connections. But overall, I'm certainly intrigued by it and looking. I got to think now what my next go-go equipped flight's going to be that I can try it on. I think I've got to wait a little while.
Does this mean? Do you think that you're going to be able to access it on a device that is linked up with T-Mobile? So not your laptop, but just basically.
Yeah, it's just the mobile
device.
It's basically only a mobile pass. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So only my phone, not my laptop.
Yeah. That's not bad though. That's still not.
No, I mean, right? It's the theory. I certainly understand why they're limiting it that way and whatnot, and it's should be good overall, assuming there's bandwidth available.
Yep. In other news, there is a mobile. Well, I wanted to talk about. It's not really news. It's just something we saw the other day on Twitter, and I wanted to get you guys your opinion. Mobile Passport, which is just an app on your phone that you can go through immigration with at certain airports. And I wanted to know what you guys think of this versus Global Entry. Some people have said, don't spend your money on Global Entry, just use Mobile Passport. What do you guys think?
I think there are certain risks associated with it if you're super crazy about the privacy thing.
Yeah.
Whereby once you've put that information on your phone and you use that to go in, you've basically consented to. There's debate as to whether you've consented for the Customs and Border Patrol to then take and search your phone.
Yeah.
Not that they couldn't anyways, but there are some interesting challenges there. It's I like I prefer the kiosks at this point, the sort of rapid scan kiosk as opposed to the mobile phone solution.
Mm-hmm.
From a consistency and getting it done, ease of use, everybody can use it, don't have to worry about battery life, all of those other things, but more options to get people through quicker is generally a good thing.
Yeah. I think my issue with it would be, GE, the whole idea of not giving Global Entry information up is that, I don't want to give more money to the government to operate this program, which I see the pros and cons because I get pre-check with that as well. For 5 years. So if I'm going to pay the $85 for pre-check, why not pay $15 more and get Global Entry and pre-check? You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, and I'm with you on that. If I'm going to pay for pre-check, then by all means, the extra $20 or whatever is a very smart investment in my mind.
Yeah.
Mine's coming up this year. I got to renew the end of not far from now, actually.
Did they send you a reminder?
Yeah, I got an email.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got to actually figure out where I'm going to be as it comes up and make sure I time it right.
Make sure you're not out of the country.
Yeah, it would be really shitty to come home like the day after my birthday and find out that I had to wait in line.
Yeah. Hey, Foz, have you used the Mobile Passport, or are you just a GE guy? I think we might have lost Foz. Uh-oh.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Dude, did you see that Verizon hired the Can You Hear Me? Sprint hired Verizon's Can You Hear Me Now guy? I'm serious. They're doing this big thing. They're making them they do like customer service rating coverage within 1% of Verizon's, and to prove it, they hired that same guy to come back and do basically the same ads, but for Sprint now.
Oh wow! Well, that'll be an interesting fallout, I'm sure.
Genius. Anyway, sorry.
But no, to answer Steven's question, I'm not a big fan of putting so much stuff on my phone.
Yeah.
It just you lose your phone, you lose all sorts of things, and it becomes a bigger problem. I also like the feel of paper, so, as you guys might know, I still collect paper boarding passes. But, the interesting quandary here is you go into customs and immigration, and they always have signs that say no phones, so are they going to change those?
That's a good question. Because don't you have to show the phone at some point?
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, the theory is you're not supposed to be talking on it because they don't want people coordinating, trying to get around, pick the right lane or whatever for cheating immigration.
Yeah.
But
who talks on their phones anymore?
Old people.
I say a lot of people that I've dealt with lately on buses, it seems. So.
I'm just being sarcastic.
Or in the Iceland Air Lounge. Anyway. Yeah, I don't remember what I was going to say right there.
It's one of those it's a rough Monday, I think.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
No, I think the...
I did know what I was going to say. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Global Entry was down in Dublin on Sunday when I came through the pre-clearance there. And so I didn't notice it until I got to the very front of the line, the lane, and wove my way through all the people that were waiting in the queue for pre-clearance, which wasn't short. It was actually pretty nasty around the 10 o'clock departure bank. And it was, there's 4 kiosks there and they all had signs on them saying closed. And I said to the guy, wait, Global Entry is down? And he says, yeah. And he says, you have your blue form, right? And I said, no, because I use Global Entry. And he sort of looked at me like I had 3 heads. And I wanted to be like, dude, I haven't filled out a blue form in 4.5 years now. Why would I have started doing that all of a sudden to bet on Dublin being broken?
Yeah.
And instead he said, here's a stack of papers, go fill it out. And I did in my horrible chicken scratch awful handwriting. By which I mean the person had to say, "What's your last name?" as she was trying to read it to figure it out. My last name is Miller. It's not hard. I don't know what it looked like, but obviously not Miller.
Oh man, yeah. I'm not a big, I don't think I would want a single point of failure. Like my phone, if my phone got stolen and that's where my passport info was, like I would feel pretty vulnerable in that situation. So I'm kind of with you guys. I'm all about paying another $15 to have GE because I love GE. So, yeah. And on the note of GE, there's actually a script, and we'll post the link, that you can run if you're trying to get a global entry appointment, and you put in your availability. The script checks to see when there's cancellations and lets you know. And which is great because there's some places like here in Portland where there's like no availability for the next 7 months. So, it's useful.
Yeah, I had a buddy who was trying to do just a pre-check screening at the facility in New York, in Lower Manhattan, and he said the delay was like 4 months, but he did it as a walk-in. Like, we don't take walk-ins. He's like, his response was, yes, but I'm standing here, and eventually they got him in.
That's a very good New York response. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not verbatim quoting him, but that was essentially how it played out. The downside of this thing is it's Phantom JS, and it requires you got to know what you're doing to make it work. This is not for the
it's not for the faint of heart. I've thought about maybe like just hosting it, but then I don't want the government to go, hey, stop crawling our website.
Yeah,
it's like the last thing I want. And Foz, you were talking about paper boarding passes. I don't think Seth and I have anything against paper boarding passes. I mean, I've
got stacks of them all over the place.
Exactly.
And I don't collect them on purpose. I just have stacks of them.
If you want, in Portland, they still print on the original paper, like cardstock.
You get cardstock?
Yeah.
Nice. Steven, I still have I was actually looking the other day, the PNR printouts from our Hopper adventure 2 years ago.
Ooh, I need to frame that.
It's really long. You need a big frame.
That's okay.
It's like 6 feet when you unfold it.
I'm gonna put it in there. I'm gonna do like one of those things, like where you like frame it and like have quotes around it and stuff. And mine's gonna be like me to Foz. Should we really just slow down and not make this connection? And that my famous last words. Oh man, an inside joke there. The last story and the big story, I think, is the AA changes. American Airlines today, as we're recording this, like this morning, they announced this. Basically premier qualifying dollars for their elites starting in 2017.
Elite qualifying dollars. You can have MQDs, PQDs, or EQDs, depending on which airline you like to fly.
Yeah.
And then you also have, Southwest or Mosaic dollars.
Yeah, and color me unsurprised, I guess.
Haven't they been signaling this for over a year at this point?
And people are still like flipping out about it.
It's not. I guess it's normal to be shocked when it finally does happen, but I feel like anyone who said, "Oh, there was no way this was ever going to happen," has just been legitimately, and not even living under a rock, like just full force denial. Like even under a rock, you would have heard that this is coming. I feel like.
Yeah. And so, what do you guys think? Like, Foz, I know you're kind of giving up on American this year, right? I mean, is this definitely like the death knell for American for you?
I was already done with American for the year. Any of the flying I'm doing with them this year is being credited to Alaska.
Yeah. And Seth, you don't really care.
No, but you know what? I actually qualified for platinum.
Oh, nice.
Straight up, I had a couple of those $500 Oslo JFK fares, so fly 2 of those with the bonus points and whatnot. Hit my 50,000 EQMs pretty nicely.
Nice. And they're going to actually add a new platinum. What do they call it?
Yeah.
Platinum
Pro.
Pro. Oh yeah, that sounds
how platinum is your status, baby?
It sounds like a golf club.
It's gonna be platinum Pro, or executive platinum.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
That's as bad as Polaris.
I actually think the multiple platinums is worse, but like by a very narrow margin.
Oh.
Like two EQDs ahead. I don't know. It's
and it's going to be 75,000 miles is going to be the level, and you'll earn like an extra. I think it's 9 miles per dollar spent instead of 8.
8, which instead of 5 or 6. It's 5, 6, 8, 9, 11. It's basically the same as United or Delta. There are a couple little wins that are nice improvements out of the program with the changes. EXPs will be eligible for upgrades on coach awards on, let's call it domestic, but routes where E500s would have worked. Mm-hmm. So that's a nice little win for those guys. But upgrades on revenue tickets will now be based first on status and then on rolling 12-month total dollars spent.
Yeah, that's
so not time of request, not fare class on that ticket, but total dollars spent recently.
And is that, you think that's only on American metal?
Most is The dollar spent?
Yeah.
No, because it's EQDs. So right, that's the other thing is EQDs are actually can be earned on partner metal as well, or partner issued tickets, which is a step above United and sort of like Delta, if I remember correctly. Some MQDs can happen on some partner flights, but only some partners for Delta.
Yeah.
And we don't know the numbers yet for American's partners, so TBD how good or bad that is, but probably at least a half step better than United on that front.
I actually like the MQD factor into the upgrades because if you normally travel on expensive tickets and you buy the cheap ticket occasionally, you're not screwing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's interesting. I want to know how it's going to be implemented and like how well it'll be implemented.
Yeah. It must mean they have a lot of faith that they can properly account for qualifying dollars.
Yeah. You think it's just a function of Sabre?
They use an Oracle system for the loyalty stuff.
Oh.
And it's a good kit. It processes a crap ton of records and requests and whatever every day, so it scales well. But I'm torn on the EQD thing, and I think I mentioned it as an upgrade metric, and I sort of mentioned it in one of our chats earlier today. And it's the challenge of if you get a couple long haul business class tickets that bump your numbers up, do you deserve the upgrade on that bottom of the barrel cheap domestic flight over the guy who is spending mid to high fare classes all the time on domestic fares, but doesn't have the single $10,000 ticket? It's I don't know. I feel like fare class on the ticket in question was a better metric than time of request, which was the old AA rule. But I don't know. I feel like I could go either way on it. I'm just not 100% sure it's the best choice. Does that make sense?
No reply, Foz?
No, I mean, I see his point. I totally see his point. It's hard. There's no winning either way.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
It seems like one of those situations where we want to are you rewarding near term spend, like spend for the flight or spend over time? And Americans kind of flatly just saying we're gonna reward spend over time.
Yeah.
Over a 12-month rolling period, I guess. So.
Which arguably is better than just spend on this last ticket, right? There's some people, but it's only rewarding spend, so not what some would consider quote unquote true loyalty, which is spending time with the airline and devoting the marginal resources to them.
Yeah.
But I clearly don't agree with that, so I'm okay with it.
Oh, well, I think that's a good way to end the show. I'm not sure we had a lot to talk about today, but I think we had a lot of subjects, and I'm sure our listeners have comments, and they should tweet us and leave them on the website. And you can follow us on Twitter @DotsLines, and you can visit the website moredotsmorelines.com. And thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time. Happy travels.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.